to break it down, the significance of this game, what it means in the here and now and into the future. He's one of the most entertaining sports talkers out there. You can watch him on NHL Network, Sportsnet Pittsburgh with our guy Josh Getzoff and Dan Potash, everybody's guy. He scored 2.5 points a game for the St. Edwards Eagles way back when. He then became an otter, a river rat, a devil, and a trasher. What the hell is a trasher? Also a penguin, a blue jacket, a rag, and a wild. And now you can call him dad because he has a baby girl too. It's Mike Rupp. How are you, fella?
What's up, buddy? How are you, man? That's a nice
Was
little
that a long enough
introduction.
intro? Yeah. Was that too
That was
much?
good. It sounded like some of those other teams came out of the trash as far as the trash area. The River Rat and Otter. I mean, quite a rip
What the
of
hell is a trasher for real?
I have the jersey behind me, I think. Do I? It's the oh, a great jersey. I'll show you real quick. This is you haven't seen that documentary?
No, I don't. I guess not.
Oh my gosh, you gotta go. So this is the Trashers jersey. It's the Danbury Trasher. So I can't believe I'm telling you, and I'm not going to try to sell this. I mean, I'll sell it. However, I mean, I'm pretty confident you're going to love it. Netflix. You ever seen the Untold sports documentaries they've done? They started it like two or
Mhm.
three years ago, and in season one, it's Untold Crime and Punishment. It's about the Danbury Trashers United Hockey League team that was in Danbury, Connecticut. And I guess the best way to summarize it was during the NHL lockout of 0405. And this guy contacted me and other guys, NHL players, and he wanted to win a championship in this, low kind of tier minor pro league. And I guess the best way to explain it is like the Sopranos and Slapshot kind of combined. And this guy was basically, he ended up, without
The hell? How
spoiling,
do I not know anything
no,
about this?
without spoiling, he went away for a little while, but our team was just just it was slapshot fights every night, intimidation, almost won the league title, and it's a crazy, crazy story on Netflix. So check it out. It's good.
Oh, I listen. As soon as we're finished here, I think I will go do that. Now we also have to get for the U.S. viewers what Amazon is doing up in the Great White North. We need some of that. Some of the red zone or the puck version of red zone that you got going up there. That sounds fantastic. Every night, every Thursday night, this is.
Yeah, so Amazon kind of got into the hockey game this year. We know it in football, right? And a number of years ago,
Sure.
kind of getting going with their Thursday nights, and they came out in Canada. They're started just in Canada now, so it stinks for the stateside. You can't view it unless you can crack some sort of code. But Monday nights they have like a game of the week, so they'll have it's generally it's got a Canadian team involved, but not all the time. And then Thursday nights like at the Red Zone, where it's just a rip around show, and I've been on that. There's been a rotation of guys that are trying it out. I think they're planning on seeing how it goes and maybe spill it over into the States and launch it stateside. So I love it. I mean, fans, it's cool.
Oh
We had
yeah.
Mark Scheifele on the one day we were interviewing him of the Winnipeg Jets, and he's seeing the games too, right? Just like in Red Zone, we got like four games on in the box, and so he's talking to us like I'm talking to you, and he got the games right there. It's just funny seeing athletes in that moment. He can't speak to us anymore. Just he saw a goal happen. He's like, "Wow, man, that kid, that see that move he made right there and kind of broke it down. I love that. It just kind of brings you back into the locker room. So it's a cool thing up in Canada for Amazon Prime. It's called Prime Coast to Coast, but hopefully it gets stateside here in the next couple seasons.
Well, fantastic. And like I say, I didn't expect stateside for this Four Nations to make a whole lot of noise. Everybody belly aching about All-Star games. NBA was a bust. Like this felt manufactured to me. But somewhere in the back of my head, I was thinking, like, what is the Canada Cup other than a manufactured exhibition tournament? I just couldn't get around the stakes. If you don't have a Russian team, then really
Yeah.
what is being proven out there, all that went out the window for me as soon as I started watching it here. Um, I was looking at your social media as the US and Canada game got going, three fights in the first 10 seconds or whatever it was. Boy, you really were waving the red, white, and blue, huh? I mean, yeah, there's no, because of relationships, obviously, with Sidney Crosby, won a cup with him and all that. No sort of compunction about rooting against Canada and going all in on Old Glory, eh?
Yeah, I mean, Sidney Crosby's the one, the X factor there. I mean, he's right now leading the tournament in points. I think he's tied for first. If the Canada beats Team USA in the finals, and Sidney Crosby pots the winner, I'm happy for him. You know, that guy, I'll always be a big Sid fan, so I'll root for him always. But yeah, I mean, no, in that game, it was just being an American-born hockey player, and for even the casual hockey fans who maybe don't know, I'm sure you know that well, hockey's not a primary sport in the United States. Like you don't see it all the time growing up. I mean, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was the only kid in my entire elementary school and middle school that played hockey. No one else did. So it's come such a long way, but we're always the little brother. We were always the one that if you got a competitive team and you're living in Michigan, Cleveland, Buffalo area, you're getting an all-star team together to go up and just compete with a run-of-the-mill hockey club in Toronto. And you're going up for tournaments and you're getting crushed. And it's just USA hockey has grown so much. And we haven't had international best on best in hockey in 10 years. It's been 10 years for a bunch of different reasons, but we got it back. And I think this is a U.S. team. It's the most talented U.S. roster ever. And you sit there and you actually look at it, and it's not like, oh, if we can hang in there, maybe we can squeak out a win against Canada. No, like we are good enough to beat Canada. And that matchup the other night, man, it was probably not, it was the best atmosphere, the best hockey game I think I've ever watched. Like as dumb as that sounds, I know we had some
Hmm.
great games that I haven't watched my own eyes probably before I was even born. But man, it was a really good night for hockey.
That is something that has broken through over the last week or so for the people, beyond just casually rooting for their nation's flag. The thing from the U.S. side is that this feels like they're on the cusp of breaking through and getting past Canada and
Yeah,
being the premier hockey nation, at least in North America, maybe on the face of the earth. I guess that hash would need to be settled by including the Russians in a future
yeah.
iteration. But is that sort of those are the stakes for the US? Did you know it was going to be intense on this level from a Canadian/US POV? Did you anticipate that the boys were going to be this jazzed up, or was it more because I saw you reacting on social media to the Canadian crowd booing Old
Yeah.
Glory, and that seemed to get you hot? Is that
Yeah.
actually what got the US guys angry and ready to drop the gloves, or was it based on, 20 years worth of building up to
Yeah,
this
I,
point?
I mean, I think that is added to it. I don't think that was the driving force of the U.S. having that kind of reaction in the game. You can even go when you talk, and for those viewers that haven't seen it, I mean, there's three fights in the first 9 seconds of the game. They asked the guys, the Kachuk brothers, right? There's a pair of brothers on the team. Their dad played for Team USA in the Olympics. He was one of the great Olympic U.S. players that I grew up watching, and they're old school, they're throwbacks, and they had conversations throughout the day that, hey, let's start this game off right, let them know we're here. And so I don't think I think maybe the anthem booing up in Montreal was just maybe just to add a little bit of fuel to the fire. But this is a team that the Kachucks are interesting. So Matthew Kachuk playing for the Florida Panthers, they won the Stanley Cup last year, and these guys are just, I said throwback. They're one of those that they'll beat you. They're super skilled. Like Matthew Kachuk had 100 points a couple seasons ago. He's an elite player with talent, but he is
He's sort of like
underused.
the optimal playoff hockey player,
Oh,
right?
he will change the complete outlook of your team. And he did that in Florida, and that's a big reason why they won the Stanley Cup. Like he will drag everybody into the fight. He'll be a lightning rod. He does so much. Well, his younger brother, Brady Tkachuk, who plays for the Ottawa Senators, he's he's actually built more for that role. Brady's a big bruiser. I mean, he came out in the first two games of this tournament. He's thrown his weight around, huge hits, fights. Like he could do everything, and he's skilled too. You just don't see players built like that now. And the two brothers kind of got together. Matthew led it off with the first fight and puck drop, the next ensuing face off. So I think the first fight was 2 seconds in. The next fight was like 3 seconds in. Where his brother fights, they go to the penalty box, they're high fiving each other, kind of hugging it out and chatting it up in the box. And then JT Miller he's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but played his youth hockey. He's from actually East Palestine, Ohio.
Mhm.
He's all grit and nails too. He went out there and fought again for a third fight. And I think it was just to kind of let Canada know that, yeah, over all those years of kind of being the underdog, that we're here now. And I think as a player that kind of went through that growing up too, and just my phone's blowing up all night long. I mean, it did something. I think just for the casual person too, just for the political nature of what's going on right now and between Canada and the United States, it was kind of the perfect storm for the hockey game and what happened in that game. And you got both countries. That's the only thing that we're talking about, at least in my rings, as far as what tomorrow night's going to bring on Thursday night. And in Canada, man, that's their number one. So I can't wait for that game.
Man, yeah, that's right. The intensity is extraordinary. Do you think, from the Canadian point of view, it's I don't know if you've heard, but no Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup in quite some time up
No.
there. Do you think that this is more important to Canada to win this game than it is to see a Canadian team win a Stanley Cup? If you had to choose one or the other, would Canada vote for a victory in Boston on Thursday night?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because here's the thing. I said we were without 10 years of international best on best, right? So we've had before the World Cup. I think that last time that was played in 2016. And then the Olympics, it's been kind of spotty with a bunch of different reasons, and there just haven't been agreement. That's a whole nother conversation. I'm actually one where I really like this four nations, and I understand these four nations are probably your best, most consistent nations in Sweden, Finland, US, and Canada. Russia is, if they had we did like a mock roster of what they would look like right now, they would be really tough to beat. And so there's that climate out there with Russia, where you're going in the Olympics and all those different things. I'm hoping at some point you can get them back in just for hockey's sake. And if you really want to say best on best, you need the best there. Having them there, and then Czech Republic and man, Team Switzerland's really built their program over the years, and Team Germany, and you can go on and on. This is something now that the players drove for this tournament. Like the Players Association went to the league and said, we want best on best. And they put this together. And I personally would love to see, I'd love to see more control in the NHL's hands and the players' hands, where they go to the IOC and the International Ice Hockey Federation. They're like, hey, we don't need to come to the Olympics. And this is a whole, like I said, a whole nother conversation. Hockey's that one sport that has to put a pause on their season for players to go play in the Olympics. And the NHL gets no cut of anything. It's not beneficial for owners. Players want this. We could see the way they're playing right now, best on best. I say build your own best on best, and then maybe you get a little bit of leverage with the Olympics. But that they've done an incredible job, kind of caught lightning in the bottle in this tournament.
Well, like I say, it's marvelous. The greatest tournament I've ever seen. 3 games played between the USSR and Canada in '87 is the best puck I'd ever seen to this point. And so, yeah, that proves that you can obviously put it together without the Olympics being involved in this. You did a good job there. You're a better host than I am of explaining the sport to newbies. And I think there are going to be a lot of new people checking out this game on Thursday night. You gave the Kachuk brothers, it does sound like both of them are tracking to be out there for the game. Who are just give 3 guys. So you gave the Kachucks. Who are people to circle if you haven't watched much hockey of late that you definitely want to zero in on? Obviously, 87 and 97
Yeah.
are probably 2 of the guys you're going to name there that are going to be wearing the red sweaters. By the way, before you jump into that, the one thing I have to say, I don't want to seem unpatriotic, but easily the worst of the 4 uniforms, right? Those are not good uniforms.
USA?
Why the white hat? Why don't they just do like why don't they do what Mark Johnson and Mike Eruzione and that
Yeah.
the royal blue lid with the nice white sweater with the block USA? What do we need all
Yeah.
the other jive for, right?
I don't actually love Canada's either. I just think when
Really?
some things are good, just stick with what's good. And the 80 Olympic team, Miracle on Ice, like that's a jersey it should always be. Big block
Yeah.
lettering, the right shade of blue. Team Canada's is meh, okay for me too. They've had some really nice jerseys. These ones aren't them. Yeah, they so looking at these the finals that other players look out for. Well, you mentioned those guys. Let's start with Canada. For me, Canada has the best four players in the world on their team. I mean, they've got Nathan McKinnon. You got, well, let's start with Connor McDavid because I think he's the world-renowned number one seed as far as the best player in the world. So you got Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, who's every bit of an argument at number two, and some people may even have an argument with him at number one. And then I think Sidney Crosby is still that good. Like I still think if you're going to win a game or a playoff series, I would take Sid. Quite frankly, I might even take him over those other two guys that I mentioned. So he's right in there too. So you got those three forwards that are just unbelievable. Like that is the Mario Lemieux, the Wayne Gretzky, having those guys on roster, and they've got them. And then they've got Cale Makar, defenseman number 8 on the back end, who plays in Colorado with Nathan McKinnon, best defenseman in the world by far. Not a doubt in my mind that he's the best defenseman. He's been actually sick in this tournament, missed some time. He'll be playing Thursday night. On the U.S. side, the big one for me is Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews is the
Hmm.
best pure goal scorer in our game right now. I mean, Ovechkin is coming up on Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. I think he's like 16 goals away from that. We never thought that that would be passed, but I think Austin Matthews will have a chance at that record when his career comes to an end. So, but he's
Hmm.
that guy who I think a lot of people put in the same tier as those forwards I mentioned from Canada, but he hasn't had playoff success in the NHL. His numbers in big games aren't great. So this is one for me. If I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm like, I need to see my boy. I'm rooting for Canada as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I'm obviously rooting for Canada, but kind of like what we talked about with Sid, we need Austin Matthews to have a big game in a big game. And that'll serve us well come the NHL playoff time. So he's one. I want to see if he can come through. And then one that really stood out to me in this tournament that's been fantastic is Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings. He's got a little power forward in his game. He's been fantastic. And then the best goalie in the world as we stand right now is USA's goalie and Connor Hellebuck. He's been fantastic. So it's going to be a great matchup.
The edge that the U.S. has between the pipes, I think, is real significant. But you also touch on the other one, the mystique of '87. I say, which nation does it sort of mean more to going forward? I think there's something to be said for both sides of things about sort of U.S.
I think
finally.
there's an expectation. There's an expectation in Canada. Like put it this way,
Yeah, right.
If Canada loses, everybody will feel it going to work, to school, all those things come Friday. In the US, I think it won't be that, but I think we're getting to a point now where the expectations are starting to be here. That's what's exciting. It's exciting to me right now that football is done. The NBA was All-Star Weekend, which, meh, I mean that's whatever it is. It was just kind of this hole in sports, and hockey's kind of getting eyes on it right now. I
It
would
just came
expect,
out of nowhere. This thing. It
and
really is
this
great.
is I think tomorrow night is going to be the most watched hockey game in a very long time. So we'll see what the numbers
Hmm.
come out.
I'll tell you what. And this is why, and I catch heat from it. Eddie Spaghetti was very upset to like he wears red, white, and blue all the time. It's because he wears Rangers gear a lot, but still
Yeah.
he wears a lot of red, white, and blue. He was very upset. I don't know how he somehow has missed this for the last whatever 15 years I've known him, decade I've known him. I made it clear I'm not rooting against the US. I'm not rooting for Canada. I'm rooting for the captain of Canada. I don't want Canada to win if it's on the stick of Connor McJesus. I want it to be because Crosby does it.
Yeah.
Because if he does it, let's say, I don't know, overtime, scores the game winning goal late in the third period, something along those lines. He now vaults past Lemieux, I think, in the collective wisdom, right? I mean, I think people go Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby, McJesus, eliminating Gordie Howe among all-time great forwards. This would entrench Crosby on a level that no Stanley Cup down the line ever could, right? I mean, like he
Yeah.
becomes the captain of Canada for all of time with a victory here.
He is in, I mean, we could probably spread this over other sports. I mean, what we're seeing right now and what LeBron James is doing at his age is impressive. And we don't usually see it at that age, right? But in hockey, Sidney Crosby, as we stand today, is the best 37-year-old or later player I've ever seen that I think hockey has
Hmm,
ever seen. I mean, he is considered a top five, maybe extend that to top 10 if you want to throw other positions in there, player in the world at 37 years old. And this is a guy that you talk about the OT winner. I mean, he scored the golden goal for Canada in the against Team USA in the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. So that was in overtime, and Sid's got that goal and everything that he's done. It's just cool to watch. Like, this isn't like, oh, bring this guy along because he's considered one of the all-time greats. He could be a good locker room guy. No, like he is your guy. Like he is the guy I would assume if Team Canada wins that game, I would expect Sidney Crosby to have multiple points in the game. If he doesn't have
that's
that,
right.
I'm not sure they're going to win the hockey game.
On some level, I understand that. I mean, McJesus's wheels are unlike anything I've ever seen before. It really is. I mean, it's what it reminds me of is Mike Vick when he first splashed in the NFL. These are the best athletes in the world. And he's running, and it makes it look like they're kind of jogging
Yeah.
next to him. They're running full speed, and he is. That's what McJesus looks like on the sheet of ice. But as I always say, I think what you can glean from this little tournament here, and McDavid's had his moments, obviously had that that glorious first goal the other night, um, is that he is comparable in my head to like a slalom skier, which is to say that he just goes so fast that he just works his way. He's too fast. He just gets around those poles, those things in the ground that you go around for slalom skiing, those whatever you call those things. He just is flying past those. Crosby has the wheels to do that less than he used to, but if he has to, he'll go through them too. He's a NASCAR driver. He'll truck through any resistance, whereas McJesus doesn't really have that in his game.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And the one thing, I mean, Sid plays in the trenches. I mean, he is the best player below the goal line along the boards, and that's generally an area where a guy like me, that was my bread and butter. Well, you get the world-class skill of Sidney Crosby, and oh, he can hold on to pucks. He's not going to get pushed off of pucks in those areas with that vision he has and how great he is. He's just very unique. And Nathan McKinnon is probably one who's very comparable to Sid in what he Nathan McKinnon will run right through you. And a big shocker in all this for people that don't know, those two are best friends. They train together. They're both from the Cole Harbor, Nova Scotia, and they're inseparable. And there's a cool story the other day that I saw that was popping around, and they sat down for this Four Nations face-off. They were interviewing Sid and Nathan McKinnon. They were talking about their first interactions together because there's an age gap there with Sid being 37. I want to say, oh man, what's Nathan McKinnon? Nathan McKinnon's got to be 29, maybe 28, 29, 30,
I
somewhere
didn't
in
know
that
the
range.
age gap was that big, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently Nathan McKinnon's explaining the story that he's like 14. And so Sid's already in the NHL. And they're I think probably when I'm paraphrasing here, but probably when Sid goes home and he trains and he's got his trainer or whatever in his routine in Nova Scotia, that this kid's a phenom. He's going to be Nathan McKinnon was going to be one of the next great ones, and he is. And so they start training, and he meets him. And apparently, Nathan McKinnon says that they had this like hill. I think it was like, I don't know if it was sand or what it was, but there was this hill, and they were going to do 10 sprints up the hill. So sprint up the hill, walk down. Nathan McKinnon said that he lost the first nine. Sid was crushing him. He said, well, for whatever reason, on sprint 10, McKinnon got out and he was just getting to the top of the hill and he was going to win one of the heats here. And all of a sudden he said he felt he felt something grab his foot, grabbed his ankle, yanked him back, knocked him down, literally climbed over him and got to the top of the hill. And it was Sid. He will do anything he can to win, even if it's pushing a 14-year-old's face in the sand. And that's why those guys push each other. That's why they're great. That's why they love each other. I mean, that's what makes them absolutely incredible.
Well, that's by the way, that's I push my kids in that same way with Connect Four. I don't take it. I'm not going to let them win.
Just
That'll fool
slap the
them.
chip out of their hand. Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
that's
keep it going.
by the way, people like that who are that hyper competitive, we love it through our TV screens and we love it when we're rooting for that guy on our team. But if you grew up with that guy, he's the biggest pain in the ass in the
So let me.
neighborhood. You're like,
So
oh Christ,
I
will you
got
cut it out, man?
another Sid one for you. 'Cause you're right. And here's the thing: Sid is the most genuine. Um, he's just a great guy. Like everybody that comes across him. I mean, but here's the thing I always tell people too. He will he'll rip your face off to get the puck. Like he is fierce, and I think that that's something that the greats have. So those guys I mentioned, Connor McDavid, he has that. Connor McDavid his day will be ruined if whatever you show him up or you beat him in something, and that's why some of these other great players, I'm waiting for them to get that. The Austin Matthews is the example I use. Does he have that? I don't know if he does. I don't know if he has that Jordan-esque ability that Sid has and some of these all-time greats have. But my first day, I signed in Pittsburgh. I'm going to training camp. I don't know Sid. I played against him for a number of years, and we had our physical testing. And some tests are good for whatever your body makeup is. Like chin-ups for a guy that's 6'5", 230. Like it's not good for me. But we had guys on our team that are 5'10", 175 pounds, and they could do 35 chin-ups. So those scores weren't good for me. The one that was good for me is we'd get on the football field, we put our knees on like the goal line, and we'd lean back, we'd be kneeling on our knees, and we'd lean back with a medicine ball, and you get your momentum forward, just heave the medicine ball, kind of your body falls forward, you catch yourself in a push up position. So this is one that it's good for a guy my size. So I throw it, and I want to say the first one was like, oh man, what was it? It was like I threw it maybe 25 feet, and I throw a couple. I'm right around that range. The trainer says to me, marks it down. He goes, "Ah, that was a bit, furthest one today." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I move on to another room to do another testing or whatever. And all of a sudden, and again, I don't know Sid. All of a sudden, Crosby pokes his head in the room and looks, and he goes, "Rupper," and I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, uh, "You had what, 25 feet?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That was the most?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "I just got 26," and just walked away. I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is what it's going to be like." So I
What
go
a
in.
jerk.
So I go in the room, and what ended up happening,
Thanks, stranger.
the train. So Sid and I end up just kind of hijacking the entire testing, and we're just heaving these medicine balls, and we're doing like three at a time, and we're getting to the point where we're exhausted. And Shek, it went from 25 and 26 to 27 and 28, then 29, 30. We got up to like 34 feet. So I already thought I exuded everything at 25, and I just threw it another nine. And it's because this guy's pushing you. And
Fascinating, right?
at the end of the day, I ended up taking it, and he was not happy with it. And I remember the next year we came back for camp. He's like, "You probably been practicing this all summer." Like he's so competitive, and I love that about him. And so yeah, that's just like my
That's the
interaction.
coolest. That, by the way, if you need another event that you could probably handle them in, drop the gloves, fisticuffs. I'd love. We got to do that deep dive at some point. We need to do a tournament, and maybe we'll get Rupp and we could get Georgie Larac, who likes talking about pugilism as well. To me, the best would be Georgie Larac in his prime against Bob Probert in his prime. I don't think you could have. They squared off once or twice, but I don't think they were in their respective primes at the time. But with that competitive stuff and making everybody better, just just quickly kind of address, because I think it is a different vibe from a million miles away for the significance to the nation of Canada and hockey up there versus the US and the guys that are playing it for the US. So you have Crosby as the captain, and you have McJesus, who, as you may have heard, has never won a Stanley Cup before. McKinnon has, but he and McJesus every spring go head to head and try and beat each other to get to the Cup final. Crosby is obviously the ultimate winner in modern hockey. Is there any sort of like, is McJesus, is that gnawing at him? Is that a bad thing? Like if it is Crosby who wins it, is that bad for McJesus going forward, that like he still because Austin Matthews is accomplished maybe just a tick less than McJesus is, but they share
Yeah.
one thing in common, which is they've never hoisted the cup.
Yeah, I think that I mean maybe this tournament. I mean they're all for each other. Obviously, they don't care how it
Do you
happens. I
think
don't
that
believe.
though? Because
Yeah,
that's what I'm
I do.
asking you specifically. You think
Yeah,
McJesus is like, we did it? Like, yeah, you didn't do anything, man. You were a -2 in
yeah. No,
Boston. Like, if that happens, he won't.
I think that they don't care where it comes from. They just want to do it because again, this is a tune up for next year. This is next year's Olympics. And so this is they've been waiting, they've been dreaming for playing for their country. And outside of like Sid and maybe a few others, not nobody has. I mean, Connor McDavid, the fact that he's been in this league for this long, was it 9 seasons, and he's never donned a Team Canada jersey. Like that's disgraceful. And so we finally got that back on schedule with going to the Olympics, and now the NHL announced the World Cup of Hockey is going to be the 2 years in between the Olympic Games. But yeah, I just think that I don't think they care who it is. I really don't think they care who it is. It's just they their country. They had World Junior Tournament, which is for what is it, 19 and under, basically. 19 is it's basically 16 and 19-year olds, but mostly like 17, 18-year olds. They Team Canada lost this year, and it's like the worst thing that's happened to that country. Like it's like hockey. I feel like in their mind, they are the guys that started it, and they're the guys that want to finish it, and that seems to be there's a little bit of a wrench thrown in it right now.
This conversation has went on too long for you. I mean, I don't want to hold you up, but I just lightning round here.
Okay.
Uh, Catch all with puck related matter. Is the cup window closed on the New York Rags?
Yes, I
Ooh,
believe it is. Yeah.
all right. How soon do the Pittsburgh Penguins are relevant once again?
Um,
And by the
I
way,
would.
my standard for what is relevant is making the playoffs. If you get into the
Oh,
playoffs in the NHL, we've seen it too many times that you can make some hay once you get there and make a decent run, so
I,
long as you
I
can
I would
just
say
get to
that
it.
I would say they're at least 3 years away from being a contender, but making the playoffs. I mean, geez, they can make the playoffs. I'd say next season.
Okay, not too bad. I'm sad to see our mutual pal Drew O'Connor get moved on, along
I
with
know.
Marcus Patterson. Ricky Raquel, though, still around. And the last question I have for you, Rupp, is we've been talking. We brought it up last week that people in movies fight on top of train cars a lot, and they get killed a lot, either like because of the fight, or they fall off, or they get shot while they're up there. Sometimes somebody pulls a gun, or they don't see that the tunnel
The
is coming
tunnel,
up
yeah,
fast
the
behind them,
tunnel,
and
of course.
they don't duck down their head quickly enough, and they get it like um, Hopper at the end of Speed. Remember,
Yeah, like
Keanu holds his head up,
someone's on top. You're on top of the other guy
so
giving it to him, and
stuns
you don't realize the tunnel's coming.
head gets knocked off. I contend no human being in real life has ever died that way, has ever died from an injury sustained from fighting on top of a train car. That leads me to this question. Although the other question I had banging around in my head is, what is Mike Rupp's greatest victory with the fists on the ice? Who did you beat? Because now I'm thinking about you. If we, instead of on the ice, you did it on top of a train car. Did you ever handle Georgie Larac?
Oh no, he
He
was
never lost a fight. I can. I
he
say. I don't think I've ever seen him lose a fight.
he was in a different weight class. I would do anything. I mean, I would fight him if I had to. I never did fight him, but I would try not to. If I, you let him sleep maybe a little bit in that game. Um, I had I mean, it's happened to me too, getting one punched. I've one punched a few guys. I've gotten one punched before, so that's never a
Hmm.
good feeling to be on the receiving end. But probably my best one was this Andy Sutton. I was playing for the New Jersey Devils. He was playing for the New York Islanders. He's 6'9". It was one of the only fights I've been in where I gave up size, and he was kind of like, just giving me like some rabbit punches, and kind of I wasn't doing great. I wasn't connecting with anything, and I just reached back and just swung. I was playing the lottery, and like I won and connected on and got him. So
Went
that was a good one.
upstairs.
Yeah.
That is weird because that's like yeah, trying to fight a left-handed bot like 6'9". He for you, you must have been like, I've never fought somebody who I'm looking up at in your
No,
life.
it's tough. It's a big adjustment. I mean, I don't know. It's you you got to be very, you can't just swing freely because you're not going to be hitting them. So
So anyway, my last question for you is, as a fighting expert, how do you, it doesn't even have to be fight related. What's the most frequent cause of death in movies?
frequent cause of death in movies.
Like the most frequent cause of death for real people is old age. That
Okay.
nobody dies of old age in movies, or very rarely. There's somebody just like, yeah, just like they started twilighting, and over the course of several months they passed away. That's not how movies usually go.
Yeah, no, I mean, the easy one would probably just say action movies, like people get shot, but I feel like that's too big of a
No, I think you can go gun, but I think because I've been thinking about it, I don't just throw this out rhetorically. It's to me, it's either guns, either you get shot down, or think about how many period movies you've watched, like Braveheart. There are no guns in that movie, but there are a lot of people dying.
yes.
They're dying by the sword. I think it
Hmm.
comes down to, I think those are your two finalists. I think it's like at the wrong end of a gun or at the wrong end of, a sword or
We're
a
seeing
knife.
we're seeing more masses go down with the sword than we are the gun. So yeah, more movies with the gun, but yeah, that's just one at a time, like one here, one there, one here, one
Yeah.
there. But yes, Braveheart, 300. I mean, you start going to some of these, like you're talking
Yeah. I mean,
Gladiator. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
that's a lot right there.
Think about that. Yeah, that's exact that Spartacus, all that stuff. Right. I mean, like that's movies didn't exist before guns, but movies about man before guns existed are plentiful. So it's something to think about. Eddie Spaghetti, did we get it right there? Did I get the right answer? Or did Rupp? Gun or sword? How say you?
I feel like it may be leaning towards gun.
Okay. And also, just to get it on record here before the puck is dropped there, you are on the record as saying it's wrong for me to cheer for Sidney Crosby. You understand, I'm not cheering against the
You're
U.S.
you're in like a really good place because just like on a bet where you want to hedge your emotions, you've got that. So
No,
I think
Eddie
the only
Spaghetti's made it into a thing on our text chain about
yeah,
like
I
that it
mean,
somehow
I don't think you
reflects
should.
poorly on me.
I think you should be like all red, white, and blue. But if it doesn't happen, as long as 87 is a big part of Canada winning. Now, if 87 um, is terrible in the game, if he's -3 in the game
Then
and
I don't
doesn't do
want that.
anything, and Team USA and Team Canada still wins, then I'm like, I don't like anything that happened in that game. But I either want Team USA to win, or if I had to pick, I want Sidney Crosby to get all the glory.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And if that does happen, if Crosby is the MVP of the game and the tournament, I have contacted other parties already, but so this is already in motion. So there's nothing really you can do about it. I just want to let you know that if that happens, your daughter's name is going to be formally changed to Sydney.
Sidney Crosby. Sydney,
No,
yes.
not Sydney. No, 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 no. I don't want to do that to you.
I
Sydney,
think,
Sydney Rupp.
yeah, Sydney.
Sydney
Sydney's
Rupp.
good.
Sydney 87 Rupp will be the
That's
name.
good.
Is
That's
that all
good.
right?
Yeah, that's good.
You're cool with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
All right.
that's good. Deal.
All right, Trasher. We appreciate all the time. You're the tops, man. We'll be looking for you. Can't wait for the puck to get going once again in this regular season, even though our mutual team is not faring terribly well. See if you can put a. I am not among these people. Let them know. Let Kyle Dubas and anyone else who needs to hear it know. I am not signing off on like, yeah, it's just better if they miss the playoffs this year. No, never better to
Um,
just miss the playoffs. Get in there, get the 8 seed, and make some
see what you could
history.
do. Yes.
Rupp, you're the tops. Best to everybody under your roof. Enjoy the game on Thursday night, and we'll be looking for you on NHL Network and on the Penguins games and beyond, pal.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.